Welcome back, guys. It's time to DIY. In today's video, I went to visit the Target dollar spot, picked up a few items, and I'm going to show you how to give them a fun little makeover. Let's go ahead and get started. The things that I have picked up are the small cheese boards. They come two for $5. I picked up one of the Lazy Susans, which was also $5. I picked up the little magazine paper organizer. I don't really know what else to call it. And I also picked up this little cute potted doggy plant. I'm showing it in this video because I picked it up at the same time. However, it's going to be done in a separate video because I have a specific thing that I want to do to it and my materials are not here yet. So be on a lookout for that, but look how cute. They had a cat one too. And then I also have these risers that I have already painted up. I did this, if you follow me on my Facebook group page, which you should, it's a great place where I try to bring everyone together to share your projects, whether they're inspired by me or your other favorite YouTuber or just something that you've created on your own. Just a place to kind of spark creativity and join together. So check that out in the description below. But I posted on that page of these while I was doing it. So all I did was take them. They looked exactly like the Lazy Susan, the same color. I painted them black with acrylic paint. I then took a stencil that I had. I got these stencils off of Amazon, just this fun leaf pattern. And then I took my silver gold leaf pen, which is also linked in the description. A lot of the stuff that I use is in my affiliate links below, so check that out. But the gold leafing pens from Krylon are a game changer. They are absolutely beautiful. They just have an extra shine that the other paint pens have just not been able to touch. So I took the stencil, I sat down in front of the TV and did this project for me. So sometimes it's nice for me to not be behind the camera and just go back to the beginning where I used to just sit and watch TV and chill and do a project. So that's why I don't have film of this, but like I said, just the stencil, the Krylon pen, colored it in, kind of got it to the shape I wanted it to be, and then I went ahead and added some masking tape and did some striping on it, and I sealed the entire thing with polyacrylic. So simple and easy as that, and I think they made a beautiful transformation. Absolutely love how they turned out. Originally planned on keeping them for myself, but we'll throw a price tag on them, and if somebody wants to buy them, I guess I'll allow it. So next up is the magazine holder, and for this I'm going to be painting the entire thing white in chalk paint. I usually just use white chalk paint, a little bit watered down. I do this so that it's not as thick and it goes on in a smoother coat. And I also always use a soft bristle brush if I'm not looking for any textures. This just helps get rid of any brush strokes, make sure it goes on smooth, and doesn't make me have to like sand and do a bunch of work on the back end just to make sure it comes out the way I want. So I did a full coat all around. I did a nice thick coat because I wanted to cover in some of the like little holes from the grain, like the fake grain that they have going on here. And after that was dry, I was ready to put on my decoupage paper. So I picked up this, it's Jim Holt's Idea-Ology collage paper with little birds and like plants and nests and things. It's beautiful. It's just, I believe, just under 6 inches tall, and it's a 6 yards. So a lot. It's repetitive, so it's like the same images over and over. However, I really have been enjoying Mod Podging and decoupaging things on, but I've been using cardstock, which works. It's just a lot harder to do. So I wanted to try this out, and it works beautiful. So just like anything else, when you decoupage, you put down your layer. So I'm using Mod Podge in this situation. Put Mod Podge down all over the surface where your image is going to go. And then I placed it down on top and kind of spread it out. I really could use a brayer or something to help me out with this. I keep meaning to buy one and have not, but you just kind of do that over the entire area that you want. Make sure that you are prepared for this, because as soon as it touches, it's down. It's nice and thin, so it's not going to move much. So either start from one end and work your way, or start in the middle and work your way out for both. You're just wanting to remove as many wrinkles as possible. I put a plastic glove on my hand just to kind of help smooth out those wrinkles. That way my fingers weren't sticking. I've seen people do Ziploc bags or parchment paper, putting it on top and then rubbing it out. So there's just a couple different techniques that you can do. And then once it's in line where you want it, with this stuff you kind of have one shot, so just take your time and be careful. And then you want to go ahead and put the Mod Podge or whatever sealant you're using over top of it again to wet the front side. That way you know that you get a really good stick. You want to make sure your edges are really well. With this one, it has kind of the corners on the bottom, so I did cut those. That way I could try to get it sealed down on those edges a little better, and then I just let it dry completely. I did also distress this piece. Sorry, I forgot to mention that. I just ran my sander along all of the edges because I wanted to kind of give it more of like a rustic type feel because I felt like that would match the birds really well. So did that, already had my sander out, which is great because after it's completely dry, you want to take your sander and rub downward on the edges. And what that's going to do is it's going to remove that paper in a perfect straight line, or perfect to the shape that you're doing. So you want to go down. So if the edge is there, it's like a nice hard edge, you want to come like this with your sandpaper in downward motions, and you just do that over and over until it separates itself, and you'll have a nice crisp clean edge. Now when you do that, you do want to go back over, make sure you've sealed your edges really well, that way nothing's loose and coming up. So just run back through those to make sure. And then if you did want more of like a rustic type look to it, then you want to make sure it's completely dry, and then after it's dried and set really well, you could use your sander and kind of go over it again on those edges just to kind of get away any harsh lines that you may not want. Again, that's a style preference. So that's what I did, and then I sealed the entire thing in a polyacrylic. The polyacrylic, I love to use that as my sealant because I use the matte and it makes it feel really nice. It's nice and protective. I haven't really had many issues with things scratching or being damaged, especially when I transport back and forth from craft shows. So I use the Minwax polyacrylic and it's amazing. I highly suggest it. So now we can move on to the next, and we're going to be doing the bread boards, or sorry, the cheese boards. They're mini cheese boards. They're whatever you put on them, okay? So for one, I'm going to be using the Waverly Antiquing Wax. I have this watered down already in this little bottle. So when I water down my Waverly wax, if I have any left over, I just put it back in this specific bottle because I have a separate bottle for the untampered with. I like to do this just because it lightens up the stain that it's going to give it a little bit, and again, it's also easier to apply. It goes on a lot smoother. So I just did this all over that entire board, and then I'm going to let that dry, and while that's drying, I'm going to paint the second one black with just black acrylic paint. This is going to give me the base for both pieces that I want to do. I want to try something different with both. So for the first one that I did the antiquing wax on, I'm going to be using the decoupage paper once again. I'm just going to cut out the one area that I want to use, which I love the little birds with the nest. So I'm going to cut that down kind of to size. I don't want it to cover the entire face. I just want it to look like kind of like a picture on top of that. So I cut that down to size, kind of laid it on the board to make sure it looks nice. Then I took that piece of paper, I laid it on a flat hard surface. In this case, I'm using the Lazy Susan that was just laying right next to me. I took my sandpaper and I very lightly distressed the edges. I didn't want that harsh cut line, so the sandpaper is just going to kind of take that away, rough it up a little bit to make it look like it wasn't just cut and placed on there. It's going to kind of make it feel more one with the board. So once that was ready, it was time to add that on. This time I used polyacrylic because I felt like it. No real reason. I already had it out and ready to go from sealing the magazine container, so I thought, why not? So I just put it down where I needed. I covered the entire face of the surface because I'm going to seal the entire thing with that anyway. Then I centered up the paper the best I could, starting in the middle, and then I just pushed out both ways. Same thing as before. I took a glove and kind of rubbed it. This time it was sticking a little more to the polyacrylic than it did the Mod Podge, so I put a little bit on my finger and then rubbed it out that way, and it slid a little better. And once it was down and in place, I covered it with polyacrylic on top and let that dry really well. While that was drying, I have a bucket full of buttons that were donated to me, and so I wanted to kind of pick some out that I thought would look really cute on the corners of this to kind of make it look like it was tacked on. Unfortunately, I found 2 different sets of buttons that I loved and only had 3 of each. So I found a 4th that kind of went with it, but not really. So I cut the back of it off. The other 2 are flat, but this one has like a little loop on it. I cut that off with my wire cutters, and then I just used some paint to kind of distress it a bit to make it match the other 3 buttons in color a little more. And then once that was dry and the piece was dry, I took some E6000 and I attached all of the buttons. I think it turned out really cute, and I think having a 4th button that's just a little off just added more character, and I love how this one turned out. I would love for you guys to let me know which one of these projects is your favorite in the comments. I think this one turned out to be my favorite. So then we're ready for the next one. For the black one, I'm going to be using Dollar Tree transfers. So I've done videos on these before, but I still have a bunch here, so I'm going to do them for you again. I have some of the black wording. I have several of the different gold, I think they're gold leaf designs, and I did that last time on a lighter color and they didn't pop, so I just kind of wanted to try them out on the black this time too to see. So I just took the ones with the words, cut out different words, made little phrases, and then I'm just going to do a collage on top of this. So I just kind of laid out and put them down as I go. Now all you need to do for these is to peel off the back. Whenever you're ready and know where you want to set it down, push it flat with your finger, that way it doesn't move on you, and then you can use your thumbnail. I'm using the back of a paintbrush, you can use a credit card, anything, and kind of scrape it to where it will go down. Now the black letters go on super easy, so you don't have to scrub too hard. However, if you want to know for sure before you start peeling that everything's down, you would just scrub it from where it goes from black to gray, and that's how you know it's no longer on that transfer sheet. With these, I kind of just peel it off and watch it because they stick super easy, and usually I don't have to scrub too hard. With that one, I did do kind of like a light white background. I wasn't 100% sure how I wanted this to look, but obviously I can't put black letters on top of a black board. So I did take some white chalk paint and kind of make a center for it to where it kind of fades out to the sides. And then once I did all of the wording and put those down, I did like a black shadow around the edges to just kind of mesh it back together. And then I did my silver gold leafing pen around the edges just to kind of bring the entire thing together. I'm going to be sealing that with polyacrylic, and that side is done. For the other side, I'm going to be using the dandelion sheet. It's super pretty, so I just cut out the sections that I kind of wanted to build my own image. And for these, you have to scrub, and you have to scrub hard. So you want to hold them in place, scrub pretty hard. Some of them, even when you take the transfer off, they don't all come off in one go. I think that's just the nature of how thin these pieces are and how fragile that gold leafing is. So just lay it out wherever and make sure you're rubbing very hard on every little detail, and then it will transfer very beautifully. I will say this one turned out so much better than when I did it on a light background. So definitely do the gold leafing type transfers from Dollar Tree on a dark background. You're going to be so much more successful, and make sure you do it on a very smooth surface. That also will help you with the transfer. Now I will say I really liked this one until I decided to add wording. I also had some of the gold wording here. I was originally just going to put Life Begins, and then I decided to add Now, which kind of made the wording off kilter a little bit. I'm not truly in love with this side, but it is what it is at this point. It's beautiful. As far as the images go, they all turned out great. It's just my design, it's just not doing it for me. But I went ahead and took my gold Krylon gold leafing pen and did a border on that one too to just kind of try to bring it together, sealed it in a polyacrylic, and that piece was done as well. The last piece that we have for this video is the Lazy Susan, and I wanted to keep this one nice and just, I don't know, simple. Sometimes less is more. So for this, I just used my watered down Waverly antiquing wax. I put that all over, then I wiped off any of the excess and flipped it over and used one of my stencils that I got off of Amazon. It's from the same pack as the little leaves that I did on the risers in the beginning. This one is like a little mandala circle. So I did that, and I wanted to make it have a little character, but not too much. So I decided to do kind of like an ombre fade out looking back now, I do wish I had a little more gray area, but it's fine. So I did white in the middle, gray around the edge, and then black on the complete edge. I had taped it down so it'll stay in place, and just very carefully straight up and down with a brush that just barely had any paint. So I dip it in the paint and then I offload it by tapping it on somewhere else to get the extra paint off and then doing it. That just keeps from flooding happening beneath the stencil, since this is not a stencil that sticks down by itself. And once that was done, I took it off, I let it dry, I sealed it with polyacrylic, and boom, beautiful Lazy Susan. Like I said, nice and simple with this one. Didn't want to do too much, but nice and easy DIY flips. I'm telling you, paint can change a lot of things, and Target has some really awesome blanks in their dollar section. I could spend so much more money there, but I try to, you know, take it back a little bit and just do a few at a time. Let me know what you guys think about these projects. What would you have done? Have you done anything different? I would love to see it. Join my Facebook group so that we can start chatting and share projects with each other and ideas, and just feed off of each other's creativity. If you are new here, consider subscribing and giving me a thumbs up if you like this video, if you think I did a good job. If you're returning, you know that I'm so grateful for you. Also give me a thumbs up. Let me know that you're back. I really appreciate you guys and all of your support. I'm going to take you guys in for a closer look, and I'll see you next time.